Network cables are used to transmit data and connect various devices in a network, such as connecting computers to a network with Ethernet cables that link computers to routers, switches, and modems. In data centers, high-speed fiber optic cables connect servers for rapid data transfer. They are also used in telecommunications for internet, telephone, and video conferencing. Security systems rely on structured cabling for IP cameras and access control systems. In industrial automation, factories use network cables for real-time monitoring and control. There are several types of network cables. Twisted pair cables are the most common in LANs. Unshielded twisted pair (UTP) cables are used in home and office networks, while shielded twisted pair (STP) cables have extra shielding to reduce interference. Common categories include Cat5e, which supports speeds up to 1 gigabit per second for a maximum distance of 100 meters, Cat6, which offers speeds up to 10 gigabits per second at short distances with better shielding, Cat6a, which supports 10 gigabits per second at 100 meters with improved interference protection, and Cat7, Cat8, which provide higher speeds of 40 gigabits per second and above, primarily used in data centers. Fiber optic cables are used for high-speed, long-distance connections. Single-mode fiber (SMF) is suitable for long distances, extending up to 40 kilometers or more, while multimode fiber (MMF) is cost-effective for shorter distances, up to 550 meters. The benefits of fiber optic cables include higher bandwidth than copper, less signal loss over distance, and immunity to electromagnetic interference. Coaxial cables are used for older networking, CCTV, and broadband internet, but they are slower than fiber and Ethernet. Direct attach copper, DAC, and twinax cables are utilized in data centers for short-distance, high-speed connections. Computer networking is a group of interconnected computers or other devices for sharing the data and resources among them. Computers can be connected on the network with the help of wired media or wireless media. Wireless networks enable more devices, including mobile, sharing the resources and internet connections remotely. But compared to wireless networks, wired networks maintain a faster internet speed and are more secure. Wired networks for larger areas are more expensive. Wired networks are still widely used in offices where increased speed and secure connections are needed. The Internet is a global network that connects billions of computers across the world with each other. The essential service of the Internet is the World Wide Web, which was invented by Tim Berners-Lee. The Internet can be accessed easily from anywhere, but the setting up of the network can be a big nightmare. Still, network cables are being used worldwide to produce faster Internet for people. There are many types of cables available in networking. Here we are going to discuss some types of cables. Coaxial cable is used to connect television sets to home antennas. It has a copper wire inside, and insulation is covered on the top of the copper wire to provide protection. It is very difficult to install and maintain because they are too big to carry and replace. This cable transfers information at 10 megabits per second speed and is classified into thinnet and thicknet cables. Twisted pair cable is a type of cable with two or more insulated wires twisted together. This twisted cable has 8 wires which are twisted to ignore electromagnetic interference. There are two types of twisted pair cables: unshielded twisted pair (UTP) and shielded twisted pair (STP). The UTP is used nowadays as modern cables for the Internet, and they are lower in cost with easier installation and maintenance compared to coaxial cables. STP is similar to UTP but is covered by an additional jacket to protect the wires from external interference. Fiber optic cable is made using strands of glass and uses pulses of light to send information. They are mainly used in wide area networks (WAN) and are placed deep underground to avoid damage. There are two types of fiber optic cables: single mode and multimode. Single-mode cables are used for long-distance transmission at a high cost, whereas multimode cables are used for short-distance transmission at a very low cost. The optic cables are easy to maintain and install. USB cables, or Universal Serial Bus are used to connect keyboards, mice, and other peripheral devices. Micro USB is a miniaturized version of USB used for connecting mobile devices such as smartphones, GPS devices, and digital cameras. The latest version of USB is USB 3.0, which has a data transfer rate of 4.85 gigabits per second. Before Ethernet cables were invented, serial and parallel interface cables were used to connect systems to the Internet. They were sometimes used for PC to PC networking, such as Rs-232 cables. The serial cable sends 1 bit at a time, whereas the parallel port sends 8 bits at a time. Ethernet cables are a type of twisted pair cable and are the most common type of network cable mainly used for connecting computers or devices at home or in the office. This cable connects wired devices within the local area network for sharing resources and accessing the Internet. There are some special network devices used to connect the Internet through the USB called dongles. The dongle is a small peripheral device which has a compatible of mobile broadband with a SIM slot in it and connects the Internet and acts as a modem to the computer. Just like the crossover cable, Rs-232 cable is also used for interconnecting to computers without modem. So it is also a null modem cable. A cable interconnecting to devices directly is known as a null modem cable. Ethernet cabling is the process of connecting the computers with other devices using Ethernet cables. The 4 main components used in the Ethernet cabling components are patch cable, RJ45 connector, Ethernet ports, and crimping tool. These cables are generally made up of 8 wires in different colors. 4 of them are solid colors, and the others are striped. Ethernet cables are normally manufactured in several industrial standards such as Cat3, Cat5, Cat6, Cat6e, and Cat7. Cat simply stands for category, and the following number indicates the version. The latest version denotes faster and higher frequencies, measured in mHz. Increasing the size of the cable also leads to slower transmission speed. The RJ45 connector looks similar to a telephone jack but is slightly wider. In RJ45, the RJ stands for registered jack and the 45 simply refers to the interface standard. The RJ45 connector is a small plastic cube. It has 8 pins and is connected to each end of the Ethernet cable. It is also known as an 8P8C connector. These plugs are inserted into the Ethernet port of the network card. Wiring schemes specify how the wires are to be connected with the RJ45 connector. There are 2 types of wiring schemes available, T568A and T568B. Wiring schemes with color codes. T568A, 1 white green stripe, TX+, 2 green, TX-, 3 white orange stripe, RX+, 4 blue, 5 white blue stripe, 6 orange, RX-, 7 white brown stripe, 8 brown. T568B, 1 white orange stripe, TX+, 2 orange, TX-, 3 white green stripe, RX+, 4 blue, 5 white blue stripe, 6 green, RX-, 7 white brown stripe, 8 brown. Although 4 pairs of wires are available in the cable, Ethernet uses only 2 pairs, orange and green. The other 2 colors, blue and brown, can be used for ISDN or phone connections. Let's take a look at the pin details of the Ethernet connector. It has 2 main signals. One is TX, to transmit data, and RX, to receive data. The first pin is the positive terminal used to transmit data, TX+. The second pin is the negative terminal used to transmit data, TX. The third pin is the positive terminal, RX+, used to receive data. The fourth and fifth pins are left for later use. The sixth pin is the negative terminal used to receive data, RX. The seventh and eighth pins are left for later use. All these pins are bidirectional. An Ethernet card is a network interface card, NIC, that allows computers to connect and transmit data to the devices on the network. It may be an expansion card or built-in type. An expansion card is a separate circuit board. also called a PCI Ethernet card, which is inserted into a PCI slot on the motherboard of a computer. Nowadays, most computers come with built-in Ethernet cards that reside on the motherboard. Wireless Ethernet cards are also available, which use radio waves to transmit data. Ethernet port is an opening which is a part of an Ethernet card. It accepts RJ45 connector with Ethernet cable. It is found on personal computers, laptops, routers, switches, hubs and modems. Once you inject the plug into the port, the two LED lights will glow in the computer. One is green and another one is orange. The orange light will start blinking, which indicates that the internet is connected. Crimping is the process of joining two or more pieces of wire to hold each other. Joining RJ45 connector together with twisted pair cable at each end is an essential process in Ethernet cabling, which leads the cable to function properly. The crimping tool is a physical tool which is used to connect the patch wire and the Ethernet connector. The crimping tool looks like a small cutting handle with two molds of Ethernet port. The crimping process for making Ethernet cables involves several steps. First, cut the cable to the desired length. Next, strip the insulation sheath about 1 inch from both ends of the cable to expose the twisted pair wires. After stripping the wire, untwist the smaller wires and arrange them into the proper wiring scheme, T568B preferred generally. Then, bring the wires tighter together and cut them down so that they all have the same length, about a ½ inch. Insert all the 8 colored wires into the 8 grooves in the connector, ensuring the wires are inserted until the plastic sheath is also inside the connector. Use the crimping tool to lock the RJ45 connector on the cable. It should be strong enough to handle manual traction. Now it is ready for data transmission. Finally, use a cable tester to verify the proper connectivity of the cable. Other types of jacks, a registered jack, commonly known as RJ, is a network interface used for network cabling, wiring, and jack construction. The primary function of the registered jack is to connect different data equipment and telecommunication devices. The commonly known registered jacks are RJ11, RJ45, RJ21, and RJ28. The registered jack refers to the male physical connector, plug, a female physical connector, jack, and its wiring. Let us discuss some of the variety of registered jacks. RJ11 is the most popular modern form of registered jack. It is found in homes and offices used for landline phones. There are 6 pins where the 2 pins give the transmission configuration, the 2 pins give the receiver configuration, and the other 2 pins will be kept reserved. RJ14 and RJ61 are also used in telephone lines like RJ11. RJ14 has 6 pins, whereas RJ61 has 8 pins and uses twisted pair cable to connect network devices. RJ21 has 50 pins with 25 pins at one end and 25 pins at the other end. It is also called a champ connector or Amphenol connector, named after the connector manufacturer. The RJ21 interface is typically used for data communication trunking applications. There are 3 types of wiring techniques to construct the Ethernet cable, also known as color coding techniques: straight-through wiring, crossover wiring, and rollover wiring. Straight-through wiring is generally used for Ethernet connections. These cable wires are in the same sequence at both ends of the cable, meaning that pin 1 of the plug on one end is connected to pin 1 of the plug on the other end for both standard T568A and T568B. Straight-through wiring cables are mostly used for connecting PC-NIC cards to a hub, a simple physical connection used in printers, computers, and other network interfaces. If you require a cable to connect to computers or Ethernet devices directly together without a hub, you will need to use a crossover cable instead. Here, the pairs of TX and RX lines are crossed, meaning pin 1 and 2 of the plug on one end are connected with pin 3 and 6 of the plug on the other end, and vice versa. The easiest way to make a crossover cable is to make one end to T568 a color coding and the other end to T568B. Rollover cable is a type of null modem cable often used to connect a device console port to make programming changes to the device. The rollover wiring has opposite pin arrangements, with all the cables rolled over to different arrangements. In the rollover cable, the colored wires are reversed on the other end, meaning the pins on one end are connected to the other end in reverse order. Rollover cable is also known as console cable and is typically flat and light blue in color to distinguish it from other types of network cabling. These three arrangements are used to perform an interface change, but all three arrangements transmit data at the same speed only. How to determine the type of Ethernet cables? Straight through. The colored wires are in the same sequence at both ends of the cable. Crossover. The first colored wire at one end of the cable is the third colored wire at the other end of the cable. Rollover. The colored wires are in the opposite sequence at either end of the cable. Bob Metcalfe invented Ethernet in 1973 while at Xerox PARC, and the company patented it in 1975. It was used for interconnecting advanced computer workstations, making it possible to send data to one another and to high-speed laser printers. Metcalfe and others then finalized an open Ethernet standard in 1980, and by 1985 it had become an IEEE standard. An industry was born, and Ethernet was ready for its meteoric rise. There have been a number of networking standards published in the 802 branch of the IEEE, including the 802.3 Ethernet and 802.5 token ring standards. The IEEE standard was first published in 1985 with the title IEEE 802.3 Carrier Sense Multiple Access with Collision Detection Access Method and Physical Layer Specifications. The IEEE standard does not use Ethernet in the title, even though Xerox relinquished their trademark on the Ethernet name. That's because open standards committees are quite sensitive about using commercial names that might imply endorsement of a particular company. As a result, the IEEE calls this technology 802.3 CSMACD, or just 802.3. However, most people still use the Ethernet name when referring to the network system described in the 802.3 standard. By using World Wide Web, now people can access the network from different parts of the world. The network cables are used to transfer the data and information to another computer. Coaxial cables are used for connecting the television with set-top box. Twisted cable has 8 wires which are twisted to ignore electromagnetic interference. Two types of twisted pair cables are unshielded twisted pair, UTP, and shielded twisted pair, STP. The optic cable uses light to transmit the information from one place to another. They are mainly used in wide area network, WAN. There are two types of fiber optic cables are available are single mode 100 base BX and multimode 100 base SX. Single mode cables are used for long distance transmission and at a high cost, whereas the multimode cables are used for short distance transmission at a very low cost. USB cables are used to connect keyboard, mouse, and other peripheral devices. The serial port will send 1 bit at one time, whereas the parallel port will send 8 bit at one time. The parallel cables are used to connect to the printer and other disk drivers. Crossover cable is used to join to network devices of the same type, like example to PCs or to network devices. The null modem cables are the example of the crossover cables. The Ethernet cable is the basic component of the local area network, LAN. The RJ45 Ethernet connector is a small plastic cup which will be used to connect the wire inside the connector and ready to use to connect the internet. The RJ45 connector has 8 small pins inside to connect 8 small wires in the patch cable. The 8 cables has 8 different colors. The Ethernet port is the jack where the Ethernet cable is to be connected. This port will be there in both the computers and the LAN port. The crimping tool is a physical tool which is used to connect the patch wire and the Ethernet connector, RJ45. A registered jack, RJ, is a network interface used for connecting different data equipment and telecommunication devices. RJ11 jack is mainly used in telephone and landlines. There are 3 wiring techniques available in Ethernet cables: straight through wiring, crossover wiring, and rollover wiring. ARPANET, the Advanced Research Project Agency Network, was the predecessor to the modern Internet. The World Wide Web, defined by the World Wide Web Consortium, is the universe of network-accessible information, an embodiment of human knowledge. In networking, we have standards like 10 base T, 100 base TX, 100 base FX, 100 base BX, and 100 base SX, which refer to data transfer rates of 10 megabits per second and 100 megabits per second. Mbps stands for megabits per second, T stands for twisted pair, and X indicates the number of paired copper wires. The letters F, B, and S refer to different types of fiber optic cables. A wide area network, or WAN, spans a large geographical area, while a local area network, or LAN, connects devices within a home or office for resource sharing. USB, or Universal Serial Bus, connects peripheral devices to computers. Null modem cables provide a communication method that directly connects to computers without the need for a modem or any additional equipment. TX and RX refer to transmit and receive signals used in connectors. Lastly, dongles are small peripheral devices with a SIM slot that connect to the Internet and act as an Ethernet port for computers.
I just want to take a moment to express my gratitude for your support. Every time you watch my videos, it motivates me to create even more content that you love. If you find value in what I share, please consider liking and sharing. It really helps spread the word and brings more amazing people into our community. Your engagement not only fuels my passion, but also helps me improve and explore new ideas. So, if something resonates with you, don't hesitate to hit that like button and share it with your friends. Together, we can make this channel a vibrant space for everyone. Thank you for being a part of this journey.